This is episode 24 of the Women Inspired podcast. Welcome to the Women Inspired podcast. I'm your host, April Seifert. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who is inspired to action, and that's my number one goal, to inspire you, my listeners, to take action in your lives. Each week, I get to interview some of the most inspiring women, and I'm bringing those interviews to you. Let's do it. Lindsay Ronnau was born and raised in Kansas. She graduated from Fort Hays State University in 2003 with a degree in organizational leadership. She loves all things Kansas: Kansas basketball, Royals baseball, and barbecue. She loves to travel, and she loves powerlifting. She loves to push her body to that red line to see just what she's capable of. She loves to feel strong, and she loves looking strong, which is why she fell so in love with the people at her gym, the Movement Minneapolis. She was a bit of a wild child until she met her husband 2 years ago and finally decided to settle down and get hitched. They got married in April 2016, and Lindsay entered the whole new world of being a spouse of an active duty military member. In the fall of 2016, Lindsay started to feel kind of off, but since she was planning her wedding in Mexico, she powered through. In November, she finally went to the doctor, and on December 29th, 2016, she was diagnosed with stage 3 Non-Hodgkins Lymphoma. Lindsay has decided to document her journey to remission on her blog, Lymphoma Lyfe. Well, guys, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you to meet this week's incredible, incredible woman. I would love to welcome Lindsay to the podcast. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So before we get started, I always like to get to know everybody a little bit. So can you give us a bit of your background? And that's always a weird question to ask because it's like, what do I include and what do I not? But whatever pieces feel relevant for us to get to know you before we launch right into a bunch of questions for me.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so first and foremost, I was born and raised in Kansas. So huge Kansas girl. I love everything about the state of Kansas. I know it sounds super lame, but it is a near and dear place in my heart. I love KU basketball. I'm a bit of a sports nut. I love basketball, KU basketball. And I'm recently married to my very best friend, Zach. We've been married for a year, coming up April 11th.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And let's see. I'm now an Air Force wife, and I have a dog who's also the love of my life, and we're living in New Mexico.
Nice. So your story is a really interesting one, and we were chatting a bit before this episode got started, but the women that I include on this podcast are really, really varied, and sometimes people are on the podcast to share a story about a project they're working on. Sometimes I bring people on to talk about, the work that they're doing or something like that. In your case, and there have been a couple of examples of this in the past, in your case, you are, I guess, in the middle of going through a pretty heavy adverse event. And so I'm excited to kind of dive into your story. Tell us a little bit about what is going on with you these days.
So I guess I'll kind of rewind to I had to be late summer, early fall. So my situation with my husband, I'm an Air Force wife now, and so we had our civil marriage in April of last year, but we planned a big shindig in Mexico at the end of September. And so I started feeling off, and I couldn't tell if it was perhaps my birth control that was making me super tired, and just something was weird with my body. And so I wanted to kind of get through the wedding, get through the honeymoon. Planning a wedding is terrible. And I finally decided that I needed to go into the doctor because I felt like I was having some symptoms of high blood pressure.
Mm.
and like ringing in my ears, and just, I mean, I could fall asleep, April, at like the drop of a hat. 6:30,
Oh.
I'm home, I'm on the couch, I'm falling asleep. So I went into the doctor finally, and yes, my blood pressure was crazy high, and I attribute it to I've never tolerated birth control, for full disclosure, never tolerated birth control very well. And I was
Mhm.
on the pill at that time because we were trying to ensure that we had no accidents before the wedding. And so, um, so I went to the doctor. Yes, my birth control was crazy high. They took me off the birth control, and it took me about 2 months to get into the doctor here. So I honestly, I didn't think that it was anything major. I thought, yeah, it's the birth control. Okay, we'll move on. So drew some labs. My liver enzymes were a little high. She's like, well, this doesn't make any sense to me. So, you're fit. I guess the primary reason why people have high liver enzymes is, one, they're an alcoholic, or two, they take like tons and tons of Tylenol, which I do neither of those things. So she wanted me to go in for a liver ultrasound, which I thought was a little extreme, but looking back, I'm so thankful that she scheduled that. And so I went in for the liver ultrasound, not thinking anything. And the next day, she called me and said, we found 3 masses in your abdomen. We need to
Wow.
set you up for a CT scan. So I'm like, holy shit,
Right.
what the heck is going on? And so I immediately start Googling, possible swollen lymph nodes in your abdomen, and bingo, lymphoma pops up. I'm like, oh God, here we go. So it was about 3 weeks from ultrasound to CT scan. And gosh, let's see, about 3 weeks from CT scan to abdominal biopsy, which that confirmed the diagnosis. So
Wow.
I have stage 3 diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. So it's essentially the most common form of non-Hodgkins lymphoma, but never has I have no cancer in my family at all. So I'm a bit of a freak, I guess.
It's wild
So
because you know, it can be easy for us to look at somebody who has been, handed a serious diagnosis. It can be so easy sometimes to point at that person and try to figure out what the factors are that make them different from me. Oh, she had
I
this
was
family
pointing
history.
at yeah,
Yeah.
I was pointing at myself, like, oh
Mm.
my God, what have I done
Ah.
to get this? And I've done research. I've been in touch with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I've talked to my oncologist, and it's just it could be a number of things. Uh, you get mono when you're a kid.
Yep.
That can trigger a mutation in your genes, or pesticides that are sprayed in the air, on the
Mm.
crops that we live around. Any there's no specific pinpoint reason why, yes, you have this specific blood cancer. So, I was just one of the not so lucky contestants to get this thing.
So I want to go back to, or just probe a little bit, if it's okay, on the day that you got
Yeah,
that diagnosis. So we're going to get into your blog, which I'll just
yeah.
ruin the punchline. It is phenomenal. We'll get into that in a bit. But I was reading one of your blog posts, and it was there was a sentence about the day that you were diagnosed, and it said, when I first got diagnosed with this crap, I wanted to crawl in a dark closet stocked with Thin Mints, Life cereal, and Dr. Pepper and never come out.
Yes.
What were those emotions like that day?
So the day that it went down, I'll kind of set the scene for you. So I had my abdominal biopsy on a Wednesday, and I got the results back on Friday. And so my husband, who's in the Air Force, and we're stationed in New Mexico, his squadron medical team has now taken over my case because they're like, what the heck is going on with this girl? So
Mm.
I am so thankful that that they were the ones to give me the news, because I know them personally. I know their wives. They're just wonderful, wonderful people. So Zach, my husband, calls me and I'm at work. It's like 10:30 on a Friday morning. And he said, "Hey, Dr. Frisch has the results. He wants to meet in his office. He doesn't want to talk about it over the phone." And so I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, this is it. So I grab my keys, grab my coat. I'm in the car. I'm home to pick him up, and we're on our way to the squadron. And I'm learning more and more about, life as a military wife. And when you walk into a room and you see the chaplain there, you automatically know that the shit's about to hit the fan.
Right.
And so, of course, his squadron chaplain was there, and I just lost it. And he sets the piece of paper in front of me, and I start reading, and it's confirmed cancer diagnosis. And honestly, I'm going to date myself, but the Charlie Brown teacher, the wah 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 wah, that's all I heard. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like, this is it. I just got married, just got settled with my husband. Holy shit, I have cancer. I'm going to die.
Right.
So it was like I was in denial for probably a few weeks after, until I had a set, plan in place for how it was going to be treated. And I have a great percentage rate. But we hit some bumps in the road as that, as that went on, and I can talk about that stuff later. But it was, the first thing I thought was, how did I do this to myself, honestly? And I just felt my husband's holding my hand, he's rubbing my back, and I'm like hyperventilating, about to, pass out. And he was there, and I know that he was just right by my side. And I had my mom on FaceTime. That was pretty hilarious. But I've never felt more alone in that moment than, sorry, I'm going to get kind of choked up, but it's been a trip.
Yeah. I can't, I mean, that putting myself in as much as I could in your shoes in that moment. Oddly enough, I can kind of see why you felt alone. I mean, yeah, there's those people there who love you and are going to support you, but ultimately it's a thing that's only happening to you.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God. So
it's been very mental.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I'm about to go in for treatment number 3. And so how this works is, I'll have the normal protocol for chemotherapy for this specific disease is 6 rounds of what they called R-CHOP chemo. And it's 5 different medicines infused over one day. And so, I'm sure every woman who's ever had, any sort of blood cancer or breast cancer or anything like that, the first thing they think of is, oh my God, I'm going to lose my hair, and I'm going to be sick. And I could, leading up to the treatment day, I could feel my body declining, and it's because it was progressing quicker than I think we had all expected. So I had some tumors in my belly, and then tumors in my chest, and then they found one. It's pretty small. I can't feel it. I've been feeling around, but in my neck, in your lymphatic system. So they're all lymph node tumors, I guess. And so I could feel my body declining. Like I had no appetite. I was exhausted. And I look back through my wedding pictures, and I could see like the dark circles under my eyes. And I just thought that, oh my God, I'm just must be tired from wedding planning. But no, dummy, you had cancer. Not like I would have known, but so it was very mental, trying to ensure that your immune system is at the tip-top shape before you start chemo. And, just the emotions of having poked and prodded. And I had to get a bone marrow biopsy because they thought that it had spread to my bone marrow, and I had to get a port placed. And I feel like I'm on this hamster wheel and I just needed a frickin' mental timeout,
Yeah.
just to like collect my thoughts and stop poking me, stop asking me how I'm feeling. Like, I want to crawl in a closet and just have darkness and quiet and just think about what I'm getting ready to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, it would have to be so jarring because one day, not you have no problems, but one day in your mind, you don't have this thing to think
yeah.
about. And the next day, not only yes, but here's 100 things that are now going to happen in very fast succession. It's like there's no on ramp, it sounds like.
Yeah. It's like I've just been drinking from a fire hose. Just getting flooded with just facts. And I feel totally out of control. I'm a very much a type A control freak. I'm a fixer. I like people come to me with their problems.
Yep.
Hey, Lindsay, how do I get out of this? Oh, well, I'll call this person or this person. And I enjoy helping people in that way. And in this situation, I can't even help myself. I can't fix this. I have to put my entire life in the hands of one doctor. And even though I've met him for, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, I know nothing about him, but he knows everything about me. And I have to put my life in his hands and, give all of the control over to him and say, okay, heal me.
That has to be hard. I can't,
It's terrible. It's terrible. I feel like every decision that I make that I have is made by somebody else. I mean, I can't have a glass of wine. I can't take Sudafed. I can't take this, oh, no, you can't go to that movie theater because, you're on the days when your white blood cell counts are at the lowest. And so really you need to quarantine yourself. And I have no control over my life. It's all based on the expertise of this oncologist. So it's been a very big mental speed bump to get over. And the second treatment, I feel like, I don't know, maybe the first treatment, I was more anxious or curious about how the whole process was going to go. And then, I did it and I was like, oh, hooray. I didn't vomit everywhere all over the infusion center. So, just one step at a time. And I got home and I felt like I felt horrible. And then, you see these headlights of this next treatment barreling at you. And you're like, oh my God, I feel so good for this week, knowing that I'm voluntarily going to this place and I'm going to feel, like crap again for the next 10 days. So I've never experienced mental angst or, I don't know. I feel like I see my body getting less and less strong because I just can't do much of anything. I feel like through the anger and the unknown, I feel like my mental strength is growing, if that makes any sense. So it's kind of like the tides are kind of turning, like, looking strong and, PRing my back squat or, whatever it is I was doing in the gym that I was so passionate about is now on a back burner. Like, I have to get my head right.
Wow. How have you been going about that? How have you, and maybe that's hard to articulate. I don't know. I mean, mental things can sometimes be, and psychological things can be difficult, but are there things that you're doing to help get you mentally in the right place or help you strengthen yourself in that way?
Ugly cries, number one. And then I have not been shy about reaching out for help.
Wow.
And that has been really hard for me because, like I said before, usually people come to me for help. And it's, whether it's my dad has been with me for the first two treatments. And, I haven't really needed like a lot of physical, help me up and down the stairs or something like that. Like I'm functioning pretty well, but just mental help, like, talk to me, tell me I'm not a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
On the day that I decided to go ahead and shave my head, like I was getting ready for work and I just had a total meltdown. Went downstairs and like just lost my shit in front of my dad, just like hug me and tell me I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, asking for help has been huge. It's been hard. I have been lucky enough to be paired up with another gal from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. She had my exact same diagnosis, about the same age. I've been talking with her. I've met so many people on Instagram. Just social media is an amazing thing. It can be creepy, but it can also be such a blessing because I have met, I've never met her personally, but her name is Candace and she lives in New York and she had my exact cancer. And just knowing that there are people out there who have been through it, have fought the fight, and have come out on the other side and are doing great, and I'm like envious of her. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait. Like I don't want 3 weeks in between my treatments. I want to go right now. I want to get this crap over with. So
Yeah.
she has been an angel. Another, I call him my cancer buddies, Brandon, he lives in Atlanta. I mean, he's a guy that I can call at all hours of the day and just cry or scream or, just vent. And it's so odd because these perfect strangers have been so kind to me. It's insane, and I feel almost in a way blessed that this has kind of all happened because I'm now kind of seeing things like through the rose-colored glasses, like, don't sweat the small crap, and be nice to people. And I really can only hope that, whether it's through this podcast or through my blog or through, all the crazy stuff that I post on, social media, that I can help somebody who, maybe a year from now is going through the same thing, and just to know that there's somebody out there who knows exactly how they're feeling, who knows exactly how unsure they're feeling about, their survival, or, I mean, God, like the health of your marriage. I mean, getting married and then getting diagnosed with cancer. I mean, the first year of marriage is tough enough, but holy cow, throw a cancer diagnosis in there, and everything is up in the air. So I just hope that if I can help one person get through whatever diagnosis or whatever it is that they're going through, because they saw my struggles, it'll be all worth it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. You're so freaking awesome because, sometimes when we go through something really heavy, and I think back to shit that I've gone through in the past, in the middle of the heaviest parts, it can be tough to be open about it and to share details and feelings in the way that you are. And I'm just so amazed by you that you're doing this. And I friggin' guarantee you are helping people way more than you realize. Way more than you realize.
Because, I'm sure that there are people out there who, like me when I first got diagnosed, are unsure if they should reach out for help or share their story on, and obviously, social media is the platform to do it these days, but it has been, and obviously to each his own. Zach and I really did a lot of soul searching about whether or not we were going to move forward with this, but the people that I have met, and it's kind of crazy. I blogged about this, but I have had friends that I haven't seen since college or, high school send me cards, and I don't talk to them on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe tell them once a year, happy birthday, that's how I keep in touch. And it's just, like, I just feel like I love everybody. Like I was a pessimist before all this happened. Like, oh yeah, this person's going through this or this person's going through this. And it just has inspired me to take a second and reach out or write a card or, send an email or a text message. I'm thinking about you. So, I mean, it's like I said, to each his own, but it's been a crazy ride and I'm not even halfway through, but I've been really glad that we made the decision to kind of go forward with sharing this with everybody.
So your blog, that's actually an excellent segue. Your blog is called That Lymphoma Life. And as I said
Yeah.
before, it is so freaking phenomenal. I'm going to read one other piece. It's from a post on February 20th. And you said, well, folks, I survived treatment number 1. Well, I'm 4 days post chemo, so I probably shouldn't toot my horn too much, but toot friggin' toot. I'm counting every day without a barf as a victory. And today marks number 4 with no barfs. I mean, it's crazy to read somebody's cancer blog and laugh, but I mean, you just have this vibrance behind everything that you're writing. How in the hell are you doing that? How are you doing that?
I have a very warped sense of humor. No, I'm just counting small victories and I'm trying to be as transparent as I can. And I mean, I talk about, being constipated after chemo treatment. Like, I mean, full disclosure, like it's all out there. So, I mean, I've never ran into a poop story that wasn't funny. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, you're phenomenal. Oh my God. I can't recommend it highly enough. It is just, and two, I can't imagine how much it would help if you were a person who was going through this same situation, because I don't think we give credit to something as simple as validating somebody's experience, validating their emotions, validating the way that they are dealing with something. I don't think we give enough credit to that. And I think your blog does, because you are putting it all out there. There's something about having an example like, oh, yeah, she was freaking freaked out about that too. It's okay that I am.
Yep.
That's so huge what you're doing for people.
Well, and I've always been a fairly sarcastic person, and I really feel like you have to keep levity in life. You have to find the humor in things, or else something like a cancer diagnosis is going to eat you alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a really good chance of beating this. So my prognosis is good. And I don't know how I would feel if I had a terminal diagnosis, but I feel like this is just a bit of a bump in the road. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm going to joke about it. It's disgusting. Chemo is disgusting. Everything that comes along with it is disgusting. And sometimes Zach and I find ourselves in these situations like, we just look at each other and we're like, I cannot believe we're here. And then we just have a good laugh about it and then we move on. So you just have to keep the humor in things, I feel. Or else you're just going to go crazy.
So something you mentioned a little while ago was struck a chord with me. And that is, you said that your perspective on things has changed a bit and you're not sweating the small stuff as much. Give me some examples of that.
Oh gosh. Worrying about if the house is cleaned, worrying about what we're going to eat for dinner tonight. My goal, I have goals, every day, like make it through the workday. Try not to roid rage on anybody because that is a real thing, people. It is a real thing. I'm on an Arnold size dose. I'm on an Arnold dose of prednisone and it is getting me. But, my my goals are different now. I want to spend quality time with my husband. I don't want technology in the evening. I want to take a walk with him. I want to know how his day was. I want to now, we're starting to talk about kind of life after cancer. Like, hey, maybe let's discuss going on a trip after all of this is done, because it's been stressful for me, but gosh, it's been super stressful for him. And he's kind of going through his own thing that I don't understand, just like he doesn't understand me. But my goal during the day or make it through work, get home, enjoy my time with him, and be so very thankful that I have a partner to do this with, because I can't imagine going through this, and I would never be by myself. I have great friends and great family, but I think before all of this started, I think we probably all take our spouse for granted at some point, but as I feel like I need to do a better job, and that those are my goals now. Of I want to show him that I love him. I want to spend quality time with him. I want no distractions.
Those aren't bad goals for everybody to have, I mean, it's funny
I'm not perfect every day.
It's funny that it takes for a lot of us, I mean, I lose perspective daily about what's actually important. And I mean, it's something that my husband and I talk about a lot. I don't share a ton about myself on this podcast, but my husband's an ER physician. And so he sees some shit every day.
Yes.
And it's something that he and I talk about a lot is, no one is dying in our family right now. And we, have a million things to be grateful for. And at the top of that list is each other. So I love that. I love that you're focusing on that right now, because it is something important for us all to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's been like we talked before we got started. Both you and I never ever thought that we would ever get married, and so it's weird because personally I never thought I would get married, and going into the engagement and all that, I don't know, maybe I kind of felt like I had a chip on my shoulder about marriage. Like, this isn't such a huge deal, but now that this has happened, and honey, don't be offended that I said that. I love you every day, but I don't think that I took it seriously.
Yeah. Yep.
And now I'm just, I'm obviously kind of, handcuffed physically by, just feeling like crap all the time. But I just think to myself every day, like, I know I'm a raging lunatic, babe, but just hang on, because, hopefully in June we're done with this stuff and life can get back to normal, and I'm trying to do as much as I can now to, spend quality time with them, even though, I'm exhausted, or half the time I don't remember what he says. But I'm just really looking forward to getting done with this and getting my head in the whole marriage partnership game, if that makes any sense. Because it's been tough,
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we lose touch because this whole cancer thing has consumed my life, and I do research on it, and I talk to people all the time. And when I get home at the end of the day, like, that's all I want to talk about. Oh my God, you're never going to believe what Candace said today. Or, oh my gosh, Brandon said this, or I read this online. And I'm sure he's exhausted with the cancer talk. And so I'm really focusing on trying to kind of reel myself in and, hey, how was your day? Tell me how work was, or, whatever. Try to get the topic off of, the dark cloud of cancer that seems to be following us around. So it's been a pretty wild realization.
I can't. Yeah.
over the
Oh
past couple
God.
weeks.
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, the things that you're saying about, you described it beautifully. I mean, the almost not taking it seriously, but taking it really seriously. But
Yeah.
there was, I don't know, just a small part in my mind, just because I thought I would never do it, that I totally get what you're saying on that
Yeah.
day of not quite realizing how big of a deal it was, and have since
Yeah.
realized how huge of a
Yes.
deal it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And, you know, I just, he's got quirks and I've got quirks, and there are things that just annoy the piss out of me about him. But at the end of the day, I just can't live without that guy. I can't. As irritating as it might be, and that might be the prednisone again talking, but I love him. I can't live without him. So I'm just glad that I've got a partner to do this with, because I don't know what I would be doing if I was on my own, going crazy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I want to back up 1 second before I jump forward, which is not how interviews are supposed to go, but I am not a journalist and I don't know how to do this. So that's what I'm going to do. You, I remember on Facebook, the day that you shaved your head, you mentioned it a bit, and you mentioned going down to talk to your dad. And there's a lot about being a woman that gets wrapped up with how we look and how our body is and how our body physically feels and looks. There's a lot of, even for those people who try so hard not to let that consume them, there is a lot of identity in that. How was it that day, and how did you feel about it then? How do you feel about it now?
So I will back up a couple days from when what they call in the cancer world is braved the shave. The day before my treatment, I decided to go with a really short pixie cut, because my hair was down to like my shoulders, and I thought I was originally going to just shave it off. Like, I'm going balls out. I'm just going to shave my head. But thank God my stylist, Shannon, if you're listening to this, I love you. She said, Lindsay, let's just do like a really cute Charlize Theron type pixie. And I was like, done. Okay. So I had it short the day before I started treatment, which I really had no qualms about. I was like, oh my God, I look adorable. So I didn't have any issues with the initial pixie cut. So the weekend before I shaved my head, we've kind of, I came to, are you there?
I am.
Sorry, that was my phone. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So start with the weekend before again.
Yep. So the weekend before, we decided to go to Carlsbad Caverns, which is a few hours south of where I live here. And we're going to go hiking in the caverns because I'd never been there. And my immune system was obviously compromised. So I'm trying to do things outside that I'm not around a lot of people. So I wake up on Saturday morning and I have hair on my pillow. And my scalp's really, really tender. And I'm like, oh, crap, And at this point, I have, and I'm 3 weeks, no, sorry, take that back. I am 2.5 weeks post first treatment. So I really wasn't thinking that this chemo stuff is going to kick in that quick. I'm like, no way. But I mean, you can almost feel it, like, for the gals who are listening who may have longer hair, when you have your hair in a ponytail, like a tight ponytail for too long, and then you take your hair out and like your hair hurts, that's how it felt all over my head. So we go hiking and, no big deal. We have a great time. Sunday morning, I wake up and it's more hair on the pillow. And I get through my Sunday, and this is going to be disgusting, but I'm eating dinner Sunday night and I'm looking down and my hair is falling into my dinner. So I'm like, oh shit, what do I do? And I'm almost like afraid to touch my head at this point, but I'm kind of like touching it, and like the hair is just fall. It's not even a pull; it's just literally falling out in tufts. So I don't wash it Saturday. I don't wash it Sunday, even after really nasty hike on Saturday. I was pretty stinky, but I wake up Monday morning, and it's bad. My head hurts. My scalp is just so tender, and I get in the shower and I don't want to touch my head because it's almost like this isn't happening. Like I'm not going to lose my hair, not this quick. And so I'm sitting in my bathroom, putting my makeup on, and I call my mom on FaceTime, and I just lose it, April. Like just, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And I don't know if maybe I had kind of been in like denial from the start. Honestly, like I've had some good, breakdown cries, but this one was just like, oh my God, okay, I give up. Like you win chemo, you freaking win, like fine. So have a good cry with my mom. And then I walk downstairs, see my dad, and just, like I'm on the floor. You can't console me, like boo-hooing, hunched over, oh my God, this is crazy. And
that would be a huge deal for, oh my God, for anyone.
Anybody.
It's such a huge deal.
Yeah. So my dad is a man of few words, but just having him around, just knowing that he's there, just made a huge difference. And he just said, Lindsay, he's got this angry face too. And he's like, you have to get fucking pissed.
Oh.
You have to get fucking pissed.
Oh.
And I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right.
I love him so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I just said, screw it. And I got a pair of clippers, and I actually that afternoon got a pair of clippers, left work early, went and talked to Zach's squadron chaplain because I just, got to get this verbal diarrhea off my chest, and like I'm psyching myself up for this shave. And I go home, sit down outside on the table, and I was like, Dad, shave my head. So my dad frickin' shaved my head. I have a video of the entire thing. And not one tear was shed while he was shaving it. We had a good laugh about it. And, we've just been rolling ever since. But I feel like, that was really the turning point for me of realizing, Lindsay, you're sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have like a tie to my hair, so to speak, but I've got to tell you, we live in a very small town, and my mom, bless her, she always told me, like, you don't stare at people. You do not stare at people. I get stared at like I'm a freaking alien, and I still have my eyebrows and I have my eyelashes and all the full face and makeup, and so, I know I'm wearing a beanie, but I feel like I'm making people uncomfortable, but that's slowly wearing off. You know how I am. I don't give a shit. I walked into yoga class the other day and flipped off my hat, and everybody turned around and looked at me, and I was like, hello, so like, yeah, I'm currently going through chemotherapy and kicking cancer's ass. What are you doing today?
Right.
So my give a shit level is getting lower and lower, with the hair thing. But I just felt like it was just all of the emotions at one time that morning. Like, I was telling my doctors, I'm going to be the first chemotherapy patient that ever PRs or squat, while she's kicking cancer's ass. And let me just tell you, that's not happening. Mm-hmm. So I had all these expectations of how great I was going to do and how great I was going to feel. And now I'm just kind of like, I give up. Okay. Like one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the shave was a bad but really good day.
Yeah.
Because
I love your dad.
I think I'm like, Yeah, you gotta get fucking pissed. I mean, he was like fist waving in the air. So it was good to, I mean, at the ripe old age of 35, I'm still just like, breaking down to my parents, but it's been good, as weird as that sounds.
You're freaking awesome. You are such a badass. I can't even stand it. You're such a badass. All right. So I said I was going to jump back, then I'm going to jump forward. You mentioned a bit about talking to your husband about what life post June, post cancer, what all of that looks like. And you're excited to go back to normal. Is normal going to be the same as it was before? Or what do you think normal is after that?
I don't think our day-to-day routine will be any different, but I just feel like emotionally, spiritually, mentally, I am going to come out of this maybe more of a kinder person. My mom always coined me as like, I wrote about it in one of my blogs, like you're hard, like you have this hard exterior. And I feel that kind of coming off a little bit, like bit by bit every day. I really feel like I want less distractions in my life, in my day-to-day life. Like, I was very motivated by money and having a successful career. And, I'm still successful in my career. Although, it's different for me now because I have to kind of go along with wherever my husband is stationed now, and so I'm a take what I can get kind of career person, which I was lucky enough to find a job that I love here. But I was very motivated by money and having that financial security, like I can do this on my own. And now I don't, and honestly, I still felt that way even a couple months into the marriage. I mean, I have to do this for myself. I have to make sure that I am financially stable. What if something happens with our marriage, and we get split up or whatever the case is. But now this has forced me to rely on him, forced me to rely on my parents, forced me to rely on my friends. And I gotta say, I mean, it's not all that bad, having being inside your own head and having all of these specific individual goals and not sharing them with, the people that are closest in your circle is kind of lonely. So I feel like I hope that I've less distractions. I really am hoping that I can, I beat this and I can get back into the gym and feeling strong again. And I want to, just experience life with my husband all in with him.
I love it.
And yeah. And, we don't have, we don't have kids. Well, I have a stepson who's 7, but we don't have any kids of our own. And I don't know if that's in the cards for us now because, I'm kind of rolling the dice with the whole, fertility thing. But, I'm just, it's just spending as much quality time with him as I can and enjoying life and, possibly starting a family down the road. I don't know, but, just one day at a time.
Again, huge, great goals for every damn one of us to have.
Yeah. Another thing that I did want to mention is I think there is something to be said about a woman's intuition. Jumping back to when I first got diagnosed, don't ignore that. Don't ignore your women's. If you feel like something is wrong in anything, how you feel or in your relationship or at work or something, like sniff it out. I feel like we are so much more connected to ourselves than we give ourselves credit for.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
totally agree. And not only that, but I think a lot of times we are almost conditioned, maybe not explicitly, but just in a million little ways each day to question our feelings, or even if we realize that they're there, uh sacrifice and set them aside for
Right. Yeah, I'll get to it
others.
tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And it's so important not to. And I love that you made the parallel onto work, relationships, health, all those
Yeah.
things, because
Yep.
I'm such a firm believer that, we have just this short amount of time here. We have such a
Hmm.
small amount of time to experience everything that we can here. And I love the way that you described it about removing distractions and really focusing on those things that are really important. And that also means maybe shedding some things that aren't important or that aren't serving you. That might be a
Yeah.
job or people or just spurious stuff that's in your day that's
Friendships.
distracting. Yep.
Friendships, anything that causes you, if I feel like if I have something going on that I'm like, oh, like I roll my eyes at, nope, it's off the books. Like I'm not doing it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that, be selfish. It's okay to be selfish. More people need to be selfish with their time, with their, emotional energy and mental energy. And I feel like we just go, 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 go. And I was so there. I mean, burning it at both ends for such a long time. And, now I'm at a screeching halt. And the only thing I can think of is how I'm going to do it different on the other side. Like I'm hungry for it.
Mm. And we all who are sitting here, not with the diagnosis that you have, and I'm talking to the audience listening to this right now, you've got that ability today. You can do
Yeah,
it different
absolutely.
today.
Yep. And you don't have to start big. Start small. Just make goals for the day. Set your phone down for 2 hours tonight. Eat dinner without the TV on, It doesn't have to be big.
So maybe you've just answered this with your last question. I'm not sure. I'm not going to presume, but thinking back through all of this, what advice do you have for other women?
Number one is like I said, if something smells off, if you're feeling not quite yourself, and I was feeling not quite myself for a long time, and it makes total sense because it takes a while for this stuff to grow. And so, I was feeling off for a really long time, and shame on me for not acting on it sooner. I realized it, but I just didn't act on it. But don't be afraid to speak up. Medical wise, don't be afraid to ask questions. Do your own homework. Ask for help. There are people in this world who are kind and generous and will help you. You just have to look in the right places for them. Marriage advice, take out the distractions. Be appreciative of your person. And I just go back to the distractions thing. Take out the distractions. Don't sweat the small stuff. If your husband may grind his teeth or have a really loud laugh that you can't stand, let that shit go, man. Let it go. It's not that big of a deal. We are, like you said, our life here is very short, and we are blessed to spend it with people who want to spend time with us, and lucky enough to have a great husband who puts up with my bullshit on a daily basis, and so I just need to sit back and be thankful of, oh my God, there's somebody on this planet who can tolerate me, and just don't waste a second. Don't waste a second, because you never know when life might come to a screeching halt and you don't have that second. When you're just jonesing for like a TV timeout, like I need to take a second. Like I need to say these things to my mom, or need to say these things to my dad or my husband or your kid or whoever, your friends. Just don't wait. Say it. You love your friends? Tell them, man. I mean, there isn't a time that I hang up with one of my girlfriends. I'm like, you know what? I love you. I can't imagine my life on this planet without you.
That's
just
so awesome.
Spread the love, people.
I love that. Oh my God, that's so awesome. It's such good advice. God, it's such good advice.
It's simple, but it's I think we just get pulled in so many different directions, especially as women and as a mom.
Yeah.
That it's hard to slow down and just take some time for yourself and realize maybe, answering that text message or that email isn't the most important thing right now. It's, snuggling up with your husband or taking a walk or anything, just taking a second and chilling out.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great advice. I have one last question for you, and
bring it on.
It is the question I ask every single person at the end of the podcast. We're putting together a playlist of motivational songs on Spotify. It has grown into actually one crazy monster of a playlist. It's really interesting. There's something for everybody on there. But I have to ask you for your favorite motivational songs so we can add it to our playlist.
Oh, man. Can I give you two?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I am a bit obsessed with Lady Gaga and her new album, Joanne. Her song, Ayo.
Love it.
Turn it on, dance it out. And then also Bruno Mars's song, Perm. Throw some perm on your attitude. Girl, you got to relax.
That's awesome. I love it.
So those are my two go-to. Like when I'm just feeling real anxious and I got to dance it out, I just throw those on the Bluetooth speaker and dance like I have no dance moves. But I feel really good about myself.
That's
you
so
have
good.
probably seen it a time or two at the gym.
That's so good. I love it so much. Yeah. Oh my God. You are phenomenal. You are such a badass. And I so appreciate you being willing to, come talk with me today and, be a guest on the podcast, but then also for as open and honest and raw as you've been on your blog and through social media. I encourage everybody who's listening to this to check out that Lymphoma Lyfe blog. It is phenomenal. As I've said, I've read a couple of excerpts and it's just fantastic. I'll definitely link to it on your show notes page, and it'll just make it a little bit easier for everybody to get to you and to find you. So I highly encourage you to come check it out and follow this crazy, crazy journey as it unfolds.
Yes, thank you for having me. And if there's anybody out there who is struggling with cancer and you don't know what to do, hit me up. I would be honored to help you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I really hope you were inspired by that interview with Lindsay Ronnau. And Lindsay, if you're listening, you are one strong chick. For those of you who want to know more about Lindsay and follow her progress, I hope you'll check out her blog, That Lymphoma Lyfe. There's a link on her show notes page. It'll take you right there. And if you're enjoying these interviews with these incredible women, I would really appreciate it if you would drop me a rating or review on iTunes. It helps me share these inspiring stories with a wider audience. And if you know an inspiring woman who might make a good guest on the podcast, I'd love to hear about her. Shoot me a message on aprilseifert.com. Here's the thing. Life is going to hand us all adversity. Not a single one of us is immune to that fact. The best we can do is make the most out of every single day that we have while we're healthy and while we're able. So seriously, it's worth it. Figure out what you really want and work toward aligning your life with that. It's a big old deal. And until next time, have an inspiring week.